Anderson Cooper, AC 360, CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
Tonight, a biblical-based theme park is creating controversy. It's about whether the government is too involved in helping to build it, believe it or not, build a Noah's Ark. A Bible-themed amusement park is being planned for northern Kentucky, complete with what's being called a full-scale Noah's Ark tourist attraction, and it could get millions of dollars in tax incentives from the state. Now, it's supposed to open in 2014. The park is for-profit and privately funded, but Democratic Governor Steve Beshear said the government is very excited about it and explained why.
Let me express why state government and local officials in not just Grant County, but also in the numerous surrounding counties are so excited. The numbers alone tell the tale. This is a $150 million investment that is projected to create nearly 900 jobs, including almost 550 full-time jobs.
All right, certainly a lot of jobs. Local reports say there's about 12% unemployment in the area. Here's what we know about who's behind the theme park. A group called Ark Encounter LLC is partnering with a group called Answers in Genesis. Answers in Genesis built the Creation Museum in Petersburg, Kentucky, with exhibits from the pages of the Bible. Here's what we don't know at this point. We don't know who specifically is investing in the Ark Encounter project or how much the project will get in tax incentives. The Lexington Herald-Leader reports that state officials estimate that Park could get $37 million in tax incentives after it opens and starts generating tourist revenue. There could be some incidental costs the taxpayers may have to indirectly pick up. The Herald-Leader says the state's transportation department may have to widen exits off the interstate to accommodate the project. But the main point of controversy is this: how close is too close for comfort when there's a religious park being built and the government is helping it all? It's a really interesting debate. It's an emotional one. Earlier, I spoke with senior legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin, Reverend Barry Lynn, the founder of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and Ken Ham, who's president of Answers in Genesis USA and the Creation Museum. Mr. Ham, do you see this park as part of a ministry, as essentially a church, or is it purely business?
Well, actually, the Ark Encounter is a profit organization that's set up to give a particular view of biblical history. It's really a park about biblical history centered around Noah's Ark. And so it is going to be financed by a number of businessmen, as well as the Ministry of Answers in Genesis is a member of the profit organization.
Well, Mr. Lynn, what about that? I mean, why should, if it's a religious-themed business, why should it be treated any differently than any other business?
Well, it's really a ministry. It honestly is. Its purpose primarily is to try, on the website of Answers to Genesis, it says this, to convince the world, including those of us in America, that there is a literal truth to the Bible, and that includes the literal truth of the story of a worldwide flood and Noah's Ark. So I'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who looks at this project and doesn't see this as a ministry, and that's precisely what's wrong with the government of Kentucky, the state helping to subsidize it.
Mr. Ham, are you trying to convert people here?
You know, first of all, it's not Answers in Genesis that owns the Ark Encounter. The Ark Encounter is a profit organization. Answers in Genesis is just a member. You need to understand that. And secondly, the government of Kentucky is not subsidizing the Ark Encounter. They have an economic incentive program, and the state is not going to have viewpoint discrimination just because it's a theme park centered around biblical history.
No, but see, that is fundamentally wrong. The truth of the matter is that this park, whether it's partially private or partially for-profit, it is promoting the one thing that the other groups getting subsidies don't promote, and that is a specific religious viewpoint. Answers in Genesis does believe, just let me finish, believes the earth is 6,000 years old, believes that dinosaurs and humans existed at the same time, only true in the Flintstones, and also believes that there were really unicorns. I don't think that the weight of the state of Kentucky should be asking anyone, directly or indirectly, to subsidize these ideas. Mr. Ham can have those ideas. This is America. Please don't ask everybody to help you pay for them.
And Jeff, what do you think? I mean, what are the core issues? Is this a freedom of expression, freedom of religion?
Well, it's certainly a freedom of religion issue, and an establishment of religion issue, but I think it's a really hard question, because the courts, for one thing, have not been all that clear in this area. But if you strip away the rhetoric, what the courts have said is the government can't sponsor something if the primary purpose is to advance religion. Well, what is the primary purpose of this amusement park? Is it just like Disney World, which is essentially secular, or is it more like a church? And this is some sort of hybrid, and you know, I don't know how the courts would look at it. In recent years, the courts have generally been more accommodating of government sponsorship of religion, of parochial schools, of soup kitchens. So my sense is they'd probably uphold it. Whether it's a good idea or not is a separate issue.
Mr. Ham, what do you say to critics who believe that, you know, the state is essentially giving their blessing to this, and yet it goes against some of the educational goals that the state has set for itself?
I think what you've got to do is, first of all, look at the, you know, I'm not an attorney, of course, but we have obviously consulted with some very experienced, you know, constitutional attorneys who do not believe this has anything to do with the separation of church issue, with the establishment clause or anything like that. And the economic incentive is for companies to come in, and particularly for tourism, this is the Tourism Development Act, is to come in and to provide something that will bring money into the state. I mean, this is going to provide 900 jobs at the park, an estimated 14,000 jobs in the ripple effect, bring in $250 million to the state in the first year, $4 billion over 10 years. It's an incredible...
Your critics say that... Your critics say those job numbers are false or unproven.
Oh, well, they can say whatever they want, but we have a track record already as an organisation at the Creation Museum, and we also are using the state's own figures in regard to ripple effects, and we've done a lot of research that's been done by really high-quality people.
You know, Anderson, every time that there's a bond issued in order to build a sports stadium somewhere, there are always people with these numbers. They say, look, you to put out a bond, the government will help pay for this stadium, and look at all the collateral economic benefit. There is no place where that has worked. It will not work here, and I suspect that this is just one of the arguments. To me, the central argument is this.
Wait, let Mr. Lynn finish, then I'll let you.
Argument is this. Look, the first time the Ark was launched, NOAA did it without any government subsidy. I can't imagine why this Ark and Park endeavor in Kentucky cannot be paid for by the private goodwill of the people who support the theology that's behind this. And Jeffrey, I agree with you. If this was not really a ministry, it would, in my judgment, be a tougher question. But it is a ministry, and we know that from the very documents about this primary partner called Answers in Genesis.
Mr. Ham, I want to give you a chance to respond, and then we got to leave it there.
Okay. Actually, it's a profit organisation of which Answers in Genesis is a member. And what we need to understand is that the Tourism Development Act in Kentucky actually lists 5 criteria which any organisation can apply for. And if they fulfil those 5 criteria, then what the state does, they do their own independent study. In fact, we have just paid $74,000 for this independent study that will determine whether it fulfills those 5 criteria. And if it does fulfill those 5 criteria, then the tax incentives is not a subsidy for the whole park. Most of the money comes from private individuals to build this. It's a tax incentive to bring something like this into the state, so it brings lots of money into the state. And because
maybe it only subsidizes the unicorns.
Because it happens to be a biblical theme park with a biblical theme, then Barry Lynn and those in his group want this discriminated against, whereas the state is not discriminating against any group who wants to apply and fulfill those criteria.
It's an incredibly contentious issue. I thought you both explained your positions incredibly well. Barry Lynn, thank you. Ken Ham, thank you very much. Good discussion. Jeffrey Toobin as well. Thanks.